Hey everyone, welcome to Freedom Friday. This week I am going to talk to you guys about something that absolutely was revolutionary in my life. I guess it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was driving a far distance with a friend of mine who I really didn't know too much about, and I discovered she was very spiritual and a lot like me, but she was a little bit more into psychic abilities and intuition than I was at the time. And I started to kind of just, express some things and share some things about my life with her, and she said, "I think you're an empath. Pretty sure you are." And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what that is. And she was like, yeah, you might want to look that up. And so I did. I researched all I could online about what an empath is. And it was like I finally found an explanation for what the hell was wrong with me. And I know I've talked about this before. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 13 years old. But that didn't click for me. That wasn't an end-all be-all. It just wasn't enough for me. For me, I needed something more. So I want to talk to you guys about what an empath is. I'm sure you're wondering. And it's not just having the normal human experience of empathy. It's a little deeper than that. And then there are some other names that have been really recognized by the medical field nowadays, which is called a highly sensitive person. And I'll get into that a little bit more later on in the video, just for those of you that, the more psychic terminology and the intuitive terminology and spiritual terminology is a little bit too woo-woo for you. We can go into a more solid, studies have been done and it's been recognized by the medical field as a highly sensitive person. So, what is an empath? An empath is someone that is extremely sensitive. They're much more sensitive emotionally. Their sensories are much more sensitive. And they pick up on other people's energies. So for me personally, what I'll feel is, whether my boyfriend is around me or not, if there's something going on with him that's not quite right, that he hasn't expressed, I'll start to feel depressed. Or I'll feel whatever emotion he's not quite feeling. I particularly don't feel people's physical pain as much, or at least I don't know so. But there have been empaths in the past that I've heard of and read about that actually feel other people's physical pain as well. What happens also with empaths is when you don't know you're an empath and you hold and pick up other people's energies, you start to think that it's your own. So you'll start to feel sad and you don't know why you're sad and you're picking up this sad emotion and you think it's yours because you're feeling it, because you have no other reason other than, if you don't know what an empath is, you have no other reason to believe that it would be anything else's. So that's pretty much the gist of what an empath is. Highly sensitive people, basically. But for me, going through the signs that you're an empath and finally discovering that all these years I have been surrounded by negative people, picking up on their negative energy, taking it on as my own, becoming deeply depressed, and falling deeply into a depressive episode. Another thing that happens when you're an empath is people kind of suck you dry. And if you've ever felt that, where you're around someone and then you just you've lost so much energy, they've been called psychic vampires in the past by the more psychic woo-woo crowd. But everybody has felt that. Everybody has been around a person, maybe not everybody, at least I have, but everyone has been around a person where they just like tell you their whole life story and it's just all this drama. And when you're done talking to them, you're just like, oh my God, I need a break, you know? Empaths also like to be alone. It's difficult to be in a crowd for an empath because it's extremely overwhelming. Even just having the heightened sensories, for me, I know that if I walk into a store that's too cluttered, or if I'm in a home, or even if my home is too cluttered, I get extremely overwhelmed by that and stressed out really easily. So that was something for me that was such an incredible discovery. It clicked for me and it all made sense. So I really encourage you to look a little bit deeper into being an empath if any of this stuff has resonated with you. Now, in the 90s, there was a woman by the name of Elaine Aron that wrote a book called Highly Sensitive Person. This was after tons of research, finding out that actually a fifth of the population has this personality trait, as she calls it. It's not an illness or anything like that. There's just nothing wrong with us because there's so many people in the world that have this personality trait or this ability. I would call it a psychic or intuitive ability. And we all have this ability. We all have the ability to have empathy. Some of us are just naturally born with a heightened sensitivity. Others that aren't can always work on it and develop that, just as you can develop psychic abilities and you can develop intuition and become stronger just in trusting that. But people like myself and a fifth of the population are really just born with this heightened sensitivity. And to go undiscovered your entire life, I mean, what happens is a lot of times we are prone, as Elaine Aron says, these highly sensitive people, or HSPs, or I would call them empaths, are prone to depression and anxiety and addiction. Because what happens is we're going through, we're basically like an emotional rag doll. And we're going through all these crazy emotions and we don't know why they're there. And then doctors are telling us that we have a problem or we have a mental illness. And that just causes more anxiety and more depression because we're like, I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. And really, in reality, you're just so open and not protected. Your energy and your aura is not protected, and you don't know the difference between other people's energies and your own energies, and you're just like a maniac. It's like I remember feeling literally how I would feel, and I always envisioned it this way, is like this cloud of chaotic dust just whipping around my brain all the time. That's how I felt. And really, I had a mother that was an alcoholic. I had absolute chaos. I mean, I was raised, once my parents divorced when I was 11 years old, I was being raised in absolute chaos. And still to this day, I have tons of chaos in my family, but I've learned how to separate myself from that energy, how to protect myself from that energy. And really, I think that there's a lot of people in my family that are probably empaths as well and taking on a lot of other people's crap and become addicted to things to try to just escape from that pain that they really can't pinpoint where it's coming from. So, and like I said, the HSP, the highly sensitive people, how this Elaine Aron describes it is that you're just highly sensitive. They may have people telling them, don't be so sensitive very often. Sounds are more sensitive to them. I always thought that it was because I was a musician that I can pick up on sounds very easily. When I hear a slight whistle in a recording, it will bug the crap out of me, where a normal person maybe wouldn't necessarily hear that. Like I said, I always thought it was because I was a musician and I'm a producer and I record this stuff myself, but it may be because I'm a highly sensitive person. I notice personally that I'm more sensitive to things that I put in my body. I can feel everything. I read that empaths and highly sensitive people actually have digestive problems. I think that that's because, and I always feel things in my solar plexus. That's really our energy center. That's kind of where it all comes from. And that's also our personal power chakra. And you really don't have much personal power when you're picking up on millions of other people's energies and you don't know which is which. So, if this resonated with you at all, I mean, this is a very large subject, so I'm actually going to break this into about 4 different videos, and I'm sure as time goes on, I'm going to continue to talk about it, and I can't give you as much information as I would like to in these videos, but if any of this has resonate with you, if you like to really kind of dig a little bit deeper, I encourage you to Google it and really just look up what an empath is or a highly sensitive person and find out if it's you. Other than that, next time, what I'm going to do is give you the 10 signs to being an empath or a highly sensitive person. And you can kind of see, am I one or am I not? And that will help you. And then the following week, I'm going to be giving you some protective techniques that you can use to A, separate yourself from other people's energies, and B, protect yourself from other people's energies and really start to develop that strong intuition and that strong empathic ability and start to use it for some really great things. The cool thing about being an empath, it seems like it's, a lot of people say it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. I choose not to look at it as a curse. And I really, empaths of the world, we're really the healers of the world because we're the truth seers. Not just necessarily the truth seekers, but the truth seers. We have the ability to know when something's not quite right. We may not be able to put our finger on it, but we know when somebody's telling us something, we can kind of see what's below the surface. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that next video. And then I'm going to talk about some depression and embracing some depressive episodes that you may be going through, because as you develop your empathic abilities and your protection techniques, you're still going to have moments where you're hitting depressive episodes. And even just as a human being, I've learned to accept the depressive episodes that I may get. Sometimes it comes from other people. And I go into a deep depression and I have to cry because other people can't cry their own emotions out. And I feel like the empaths of the world are kind of here to cry for the people that can't cry. I'm really accepting of emotions much more than a lot of other people. So I hope that this started to pique your interest about some things that might be within you that you haven't quite discovered yet. I will see you guys next time. Make sure you join the inspiration conversation on DariaWaken.com and tell me, how has this video helped you? Could you possibly be an empath? Have you ever heard of what an empath is? And do you know anybody that this might be describing? Let me know on DariaWaken.com, and I'll see you guys next time.